Hey guys, and welcome to Functional Print Friday, and welcome back to my shop. I think we're going to need a little bit of background before we start today's video. So the guy in this video is about to be not having the best of days, and the guy in the video is me. I came in here into the building where our equipment is for the pool, and I found a whole bunch of water on the floor. And that's not great because it's actually a saltwater pool. And salt water is not great to have touching a bunch of stuff that can corrode, including my generator here. Some of the salt water actually seemed to spray on the generator as there was actually some dried salt on the generator. So I grabbed my hose and I just kind of rinsed everything down with fresh water because this had been leaking for at least a couple of days. I had been traveling for work, so I just hadn't noticed it. And after I rinsed everything down, I realized that, yeah, this water was not really going to drain away. And the floor is lowest, kind of like right over in front of the generator. And I thought, could probably just drill a hole in this floor. It's just gravel underneath this. I remember from when they built it. And, you know, the water can just drain down into the gravel underneath the floor. And it'd be nice to have a drain in here for the future, too. So I went and I grabbed my hammer drill, and I almost made a little oopsie here. I plugged this thing in and was standing over there. And I thought, you know what? I probably shouldn't be standing in a pool of water with a power tool that's plugged into the wall. So I went and grabbed some wood blocks and I stood on those and drilled the hole. And this is now all dried out, so let's go take a closer look. All right, so here's the scene of the crime. This hose here was attached to this, and let's see if we can find the split in it. Actually, I think it's right there. And what happened is I just didn't have this valve in quite the right position, so a tiny amount of water was able to get through. The problem is that tiny amount of water is still going to be under the same pressure as the return for the pool. So over time, I think that probably just got bigger and bigger, and eventually it flooded the floor in here. All right, so here is the area that had the most water in it. If I recall, it was kind of deepest in this area here. I tried to measure it with a small ruler. The challenge is when you're measuring water, the surface tension kind of pulls it up the ruler, so it makes it really hard to tell the depth. I tried a couple different things. The best thing was like a small clear plastic ruler, and if I recall, it was a little bit deeper, maybe like in this area here, but I really didn't want the hole there because I was worried that something might end up on top of it. Figured if I drill the hole over here, it's kind of out of the way. Problem is, I don't want this to get clogged up. I mean, I don't anticipate having water in here again, but it's kind of inevitable. It's probably going to happen at some point, whether it be servicing the filter here or just something else goes wrong in here. So I want to make something that is not a cap. I don't want to seal it because I want water to be able to get in there without me having to come in here and do anything. So I got to think about how I want to design that. Maybe with like a mesh. I don't want it to get clogged either with just dust. But that's what we're working with. All right, turn the light on in the camera. You can actually see that hole goes all the way through, and maybe even see the gravel down there at the bottom of it. All right, you guys don't need to watch me measure this. I'm going to go grab my digital calipers. I'm going to get two measurements, the long ways and short ways, since that is oval. And I'm going to start designing, and I'll bring you guys back. Oh, before I put these drills away, let me just share a lesson that I learned about 10 years ago with you guys, because I'm sure many of you know this, but some of you probably don't. And we were actually just talking about this in the Discord like a week or two ago. So this is the corded drill that I always historically used for like heavy duty drilling, or if I had to drill into concrete for an anchor. And this has a mode you can shift into here. It's got a little picture of a hammer. And this guy kind of vibrates a little bit as it would drill. And it never did a great job, but I was never putting in more than like one or two wall anchors. And it kind of did well enough, and I didn't really know any better. And if you have a drill that has a hammer drill mode, yours is probably similar to this one, unless you have one that looks like this or larger than this. A drill that has a hammer drill mode that does not have a mode where all it does is hammer, that it doesn't turn at all, that it just hammers back and forth, is not a real hammer drill. I learned my lesson when I tried to use this one to drill about 30 holes to knock out like a big hole for a pipe through a concrete wall. And I spent about an hour with this one before I admitted defeat and started doing some research and realized I had completely the wrong tool. These Bosch Bulldog Extremes are really good. There's several steps up from that as well. But the way you can tell if a drill is a real hammer drill is it should have a mode that all it does is hammer. When I put it in this mode, the drill bit itself doesn't turn at all. This just hammers back and forth. And you can see how much that hammers back and forth versus a regular drill with a hammer drill mode. And in fact, you can take the bit out and put a chisel in here and actually do things like chipping out concrete or getting up on a floor or something like that. So should you find yourself ever needing an actual hammer drill, yeah, don't fight with a drill that has a hammer mode on it that's not really a hammer drill. Get yourself a real hammer drill. I'll link to this one down in the description of the video if you want to check it out. I am partial to the Bosch corded tools, and most of my cordless tools are Bosch as well. I've had good luck with them. So I'll link to this one. All right, and here is the design that I came up with for this. And the way I'm intending this to work is this is the bottom end here. So this will get pushed into the hole, figure, probably about halfway. So imagine half of this is in the concrete, half of it is sticking out. And it's totally open at the bottom. And the idea is that water will enter through these vertical slits in this. And I thought about a mesh. I thought about doing this a number of different ways. Having something that rises out of the hole, I think is the best option, because the higher the water is, the more opening there is for that water to dump in and drop through this hole in the bottom. And I really went back and forth quite a few times on how big to make these. I settled on about 2.5 millimeters in width, and I also made sure that these holes are the same width at the back as the front. They could actually be wider in the back, that'd be fine. And initially, just because this is curved, I noticed that I unintentionally had made the holes or the slits here a little bit wider at the front than the back, and I realized it's going to be a problem because stuff is going to start to go in, get stuck, and then this guy's just going to clog up. So I adjusted all of these to make sure that they are at least as wide at the back of these vertical slits here as they are at the front, so it doesn't clog up. This is one of those things where I think until I print it out, I'm really not going to be sure if the size is right. Like, I don't want big stuff getting in here and going down and clogging up the gravel underneath the floor. And I don't want bugs going in, but I also don't want to make them so small that the water itself has a hard time getting through quickly. So, all right, let's print it out. Let's see how we did. While we're waiting for that to print, I want to try something. A couple of weeks ago, Creality reached out and asked if I would be interested in checking out their Raptor Pro scanner on the channel. And I've been messing around with this for the last week and a half or so, and just kind of learning how to use it, learning how to use the software. And actually, when they first reached out, I did the same thing that probably everyone does, is I went and I looked at somebody else's video, to see if it was something I was actually interested in checking out. And they said, oh, it comes in a nice case. And I kind of yawned, because I've never actually bought anything that comes in a nice case outside of maybe a really high-end tool. This genuinely comes in a really nice case. I don't want to gloss over it. Like, I have spent over $100 for cases just like this one. This is every bit as nice as a Pelican or an SKB or like a Go Professional case. Like, it is genuinely a nice case. I would drive over this case with my truck and this thing would be 100% fine. Thank you, Creality, for actually including a nice case. I hate when companies cheap out on the case, because I always feel like, you could have saved $5. I could have paid $5 less because I'm throwing this out. No, in this case, this is truly a nice case. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. You're going to see more of this on the channel. We're going to do some regular 3D scanning with this. But what if we scan the floor? I don't really know for sure where the low spot is on that floor. Now, at this point, I guess it really doesn't matter. I've already drilled the hole, but I'm kind of curious. And I'm kind of curious if this thing will do it. This is supposed to have, I believe, 20 micron accuracy, and will do up to like objects 4 meters wide. So it should be no problem at all scanning part of the floor. And I have, you saw in a previous video, I made a bunch of these little 3D printed scanner markers. So I don't know, let's try it. I'm curious. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. So I started by covering the whole section with these little 3D printed scanner markers. These are just printed out of PLA, and the little reflective dots there are just decals. They actually come with the 3D scanner. You can scan without these, but it is way better with them, and the more you have, the better. Obviously, they're going to get in the way. For some things you're going to scan, and you're probably better off just using the little adhesive dots, but for stuff like this, they're great. So I started off by trying to scan the whole surface in here, and you can actually move pretty fast with this. The blue laser scanning mode, especially with markers, like it's fast. That's the biggest difference between this and any other scanner that I have tried. But I got about a minute into this and I realized I'm making a stupid mistake, because we're going to get a really detailed scan of this floor, but it may as well be a wall. Like there's no reference point. We don't really know what level is. So I got the idea of grabbing one of my little precision ground flat stones and leveling that to the surface of the floor. And I'm just doing that here with a couple paper towels as spacers, because I figure if I have the flat surface, the flat top of a precision ground stone at exactly level, then that can be our reference point. We can essentially rotate the scan around so that that is, that's level with the horizon, call it, and then, understand the relative points on that scan to how the water's actually going to flow. Is this going to work? Is it perfect? No, probably not, but it's way better than what I was doing, which was nothing at all to actually level it. So using the scanner does take a little bit of getting used to. My natural tendency was to actually look at all of those cross laser lines being emitted from the scanner as I'm moving it back and forth. It's kind of mesmerizing, actually. But what you really want to do is look at the screen that has the scanning software running on it to see the areas that you have successfully scanned and how effective your motions and distance are away from the subject. You don't just move it around. You want to actually change the angle and sort of gently wave it back and forth to give it slightly different perspectives of the surface that you're trying to scan. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy, but like I said, it is just weird at first because you got to learn, don't look at what you're scanning. Look at the scanning software while you're actually using it. And the scanner has other modes as well. I'm using it here in the 22 cross laser line mode, and that's the mode that I have used for most of the work that I have done with it so far. There's also a mode with just 7 parallel laser lines instead of the cross laser lines, and you can switch between those depending on the size of the object that you are scanning. And there's actually a third mode as well, where it's just the near infrared structured light, like some of the other scanners out there. I'm not entirely sure what you'd use this mode for. I find it, at least personally, inferior in comparison to the cross laser line modes, but I'm sure there is some subjects that that mode is better for, and you do have the ability to switch into it. The accuracy on this thing is pretty amazing if you believe the spec. It's supposedly 20 microns, but they list that as volumetric accuracy. So my guess is there's probably a little bit of averaging there since it's volumetric, but I mean, 20 microns is pretty crazy. Even if it's, half as good as that, that's still probably better accuracy than you're ever really going to need from a 3D scanner. It'll do objects up to 4 meters wide, which seems pretty crazy, although a lot of people are using these to scan cars, to design accessories for cars, which is pretty cool. I mean, I definitely could not have done that with the scanner that I had before. I mean, I struggled to scan even just the side of my lathe with it. Creality has also come a really long way with the scanning software. You can stop and start the scan and actually combine scans, and the wizard mode will actually match the points in the scan, not reliant on your little marker dots, but just reliant on the geometry in the scan. If it's a close enough match, like it figures how it needs to rotate it around to match it up, which is pretty cool. So if you're scanning like really, really big objects, you don't have to do it in one shot. The spec on this is up to 60 frames per second scanning. I get around 30 on my laptop that I'm running this from. This laptop's a couple years old at this point. It is in a 6-core i7. It does have an RTX 3070 in it, and there's 16 gigs of memory. They recommend 32 gigs of memory, but it seems to be performing fine with 16, and 30 frames per second seems pretty good. But I guess if you're using this thing all day, like you're running like a 3D scanning business, it probably makes sense to maximize the performance of your system to get those scans done even faster. I've really been having a great time toying around with this scanner, and thank you to Creality for sending it out. Creality sent this out to the channel completely free of charge for us to use on projects on the channel, and they did agree to my review policy. And if you're new to the channel, it's a pretty strict review policy. I will link the policy in the description of this video if you want to check it out for yourself and read the fine print. But in short, I don't allow any editorial control over my videos. No approval. Creality has not seen this video. They don't know what I'm doing the video on. They don't know when it's coming out. They will get the link for the video at the same time that I hit the publish button, and you guys are seeing it in your feeds. The other big one is it's pretty commonplace for companies to pay for the production of these review videos or even a project video. I don't accept any payments. I don't accept, yes, they sent the item itself out completely free. Is there bias there? I'll leave that for you to decide. Hopefully you can see that I'm enjoying using this, but I don't accept any payments or anything of value to make these videos. If you're interested in one of these Creality Raptor Pro scanners, or you just want to learn more about it, I will make sure there is a link down in the description of the video that will take you up to Creality's website. That will be an affiliate link, so if you use that link and then you end up buying one, it does help support the channel, which I appreciate. It doesn't cost you anything different than just going up to their website and searching for it, or Googling Creality Raptor Pro. And if you want to do that, that's fine too. All right, before I put this away, I figured I'd give you guys a closer look at it, since you probably couldn't see it that well when I was actually scanning with it. This is nicely made. Like, it feels nice in your hand. Like, this is rubberized here. It's not heavy, but it's not light either. You don't really fatigue using it. It does have a nice wrist strap on it. I really like the way they did the cord. These are on each side. This is a single piece of, looks like probably stainless. And it's not threaded at the very end. So, and there's brass, I don't know if you call those like bushings. And the way this works is you plug the USB-C in, and then those pins slide in to make sure that it is aligned, and then you turn them to lock each one. So it's really nicely securely attached, but also not hard to actually take on and off. The only thing that I'm not really a fan of is it's not actually USB-C powered. If we follow this cable, which admittedly could be a little longer, I'd probably add, I don't know, maybe 4 feet to this. If that can be done, I don't know if that changes the USB-C data rate at all. But if we follow this cable down, you see this end goes into your laptop or your computer, and then this connector here is a barrel plug for power. This does require a separate wall wart. I guess, you know, it's a power-hungry device. I don't know. I actually didn't try it without this. Maybe on some machines it does work with just regular USB power. I'm not 100% certain, but it's kind of annoying to have to plug an extra thing in. But I mean, you know, it's not a big deal. All right, so here is that scan data, and I actually imported it right into Bamboo Studio because Bamboo Studio actually makes a pretty good visualizer of the scan data. It's very responsive. And this scan data, by the way, is, I just hit the auto process button in Creality Scan. I didn't do anything manually to tweak this at all. It does a pretty good job of processing it. I mean, I probably could have taken a second and deleted some of the extraneous data here, but I didn't, and it doesn't really seem to matter. Now, I did take the time to adjust the rotation of this so that the bottom of this flat block, now this whole thing is flipped over, where actually that's why the block appears to be the inverse here. We just happen to get a better textured surface if we view it this way, and this is actually going to make it easier to see where the lowest point of the floor is. But if I drop this down, hopefully you can see that that disappears all at the same time. So assuming the top of that block is indeed level, we can now start to sink this into the build plate, and whatever disappears last would be the lowest point of the floor. So you can see it's reasonably level, and as we'd expect, the lower points are these little sections between those stamped concrete blocks. But if I continue to drop this down, you can see we're pretty close. Basically, like, all of the sections around that one block pretty much disappear at the same time. So I don't think this is going to have any problem actually draining. And this geometry here is actually the little bit of scan data that we got from inside that hole that's bored in the concrete. So that's why that appears so much lower. So hopefully you guys found that interesting. I kind of do enjoy using tools in ways that they're not necessarily intended to be used for, to get information that would be otherwise pretty hard to get. I don't know how otherwise we would have gotten a good idea of what really is the lowest point with a little variations here on this floor. All right, and our print is complete. I printed this on the Bamboo Lab H2D out of PETG HF. I find it really nice to be able to just keep filaments that I need to dry and keep dry before printing in the AMS2 on that machine, because I don't even need to unload it. I can just kick off a drying cycle and then run my print. PLA might have been okay for this. It does get pretty hot in there in the summer sometimes, so I thought PETG HF is just good insurance. But if this fails, I mean, this was not a long print, so. You can definitely see the oval shape in the print. Hopefully I didn't overdo it. I mean, that is based on the measurement that I actually got in the hole. And I wasn't sure that I kind of had the right size on the holes for the water to pass through without large debris passing through, but holding it in my hand, I think it looks good. Let's see if it fits. All right, so this doesn't need to fit perfectly. It just needs to drop below the surface. I'd be happy if it sunk maybe halfway in, or if it fit at all. Do I have this turned the right way? Ah, there we go. Oh, that's actually pretty good. It could go in a little further. I tried to position it as close to my generator over here as I could so that I don't kick it, because I do kind of walk in this area sometimes, like when I'm filling up the fuel tank or servicing the filter at the end of the season. But that's not bad. It's probably about a third of the way in. I guess I could taper the bottom. Yeah, I could just shrink the bottom of the print a little bit so that it is tapered. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I think I am gonna print another one, but I'm gonna roll with this one for now. I am inevitably going to kick or step on this. It's gonna happen. Whether it's tomorrow or whether it's 2 years from now, it will eventually happen. So I wanna have a spare anyway. I think I'm gonna taper the bottom just a bit. I don't want it to go in too much further because these vertical lines here are where the water gets in. So, if this sunk in almost all the way to the top here, it'd be fine if there was only a small bit of water on this floor, but if I did actually have a lot of water in here at any point, if this goes in too far, the water's not actually gonna be able to get into it. So I think I'm happy with the height, but I'm gonna taper it just a bit and just print a spare and just set it in here. So again, when I inevitably kick or step on this thing, I'll have a spare ready to go. All right, pretty much as soon as I turned the camera off, I could hear you guys yelling at your screens that I didn't test it, so I went and got some water. Let's see. And it certainly looks like it's going in there. There's not a whole lot of pitch to this floor, so water's also kind of just going everywhere. Let's see if the level drops. Yeah, it looks like it's all flowing in there. You can see some bubbles or something on the surface there. Well guys, I'm crossing that one off the list. Let me know down in the comments of this video if there's anything that you would have done differently or what you think of the solution, what you liked, what you didn't like. And let me know too what you think of that scanner. If you have any questions about that, I can certainly try and answer them. You're gonna see that more on the channel. I am really impressed with how much faster that scanner is than the one that I tried before. The one I had before, it did an okay job and it wasn't inaccurate, but it kind of felt painful to use because it was so slow. This Raptor Pro is fast. I captured like a 2 foot by 2 foot square section of floor, and that only took a few minutes. I'm really liking that scanner. Special shout out to my patrons for supporting the content on this channel. Thank you very, very much. And if you're also interested in becoming a supporter of the channel, there is a link to the Patreon down in the description of the video. And thank you all for watching the video. If you guys weren't here watching, I'd just be some guy talking to a workbench. So thank you. If you got anything out of this video, you enjoyed it, take a second, hit the like button, really helps out the channel. Share it with a friend, and if this is by chance your first time here, that's all we do. It's all functional printing and the engineering associated with that. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, check out some of the other videos on the channel. And if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And guys, if you do, I'll see you next Friday.